Albert, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to have you on. For those who aren't familiar with you, would you mind briefly introducing yourself?
Sure. Hey, and happy to be here, Warren. I am Albert Bellamy. I sometimes go by various aliases, the Marine who smiles at spreadsheets, major data, all sorts of stuff. You can see by the junk behind me. I did have a military career. That is no more. I moved on from that and became a data analyst. Uh, so right from coming out of the Marine Corps, I became a marketing analyst, which was a fascinating job because I'm kind of obsessed with human performance, human response, and sort of all the things that kind of make people tick, and measuring that, um, and all the ways that that manifests. So I had a good time in marketing analytics. Funny thing, I developed an expertise in a particular piece of software, and when the company came a calling to say, hey, we're hiring our own instructors, do you want to come try out? I jumped ship from the marketing analytics company and went over to the software company, and I've been there ever since. So yeah, I spent about 2 years teaching the software, and then the last year or so, I've been a client consultant. So I kind of meet with the clients that buy our software and tackle all the thorny problems, like them trying to get Alteryx to do things that maybe it was never intended to do, or find kind of outside the box solutions. So it's a challenging job. I love it. But yeah, you definitely have some days where you're like, man, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think everyone can relate to that. But let's start from the
Yeah.
beginning. So, you worked in the Marines. I think you went to college before that, or did you enter the Marine Corps straight out of high school, and then while you were there, you got
Yeah, the
educated as
college
well?
thing's kind of a long story. I did start at college, and then I stopped college and I joined the Marines, and then I finished college while still in the Marines, and yeah, that was kind of all over the map. So yeah, the college odyssey of young Albert Bellamy was a decade plus to get a 4 year degree. I don't recommend that as a course of action to anybody else, but yeah, just kind of how my life out worked out.
Hey, power to you. You got it done. Um, so while you
Yeah.
were in the Marines, were you always working within like some sort of analytics role, or did you start out doing different things?
Not really. I tended to seek out roles that were analytic oriented. When I first started out, when I enlisted, dropped out of college, I became a maintenance management clerk, which is about as sexy as the title would imply. You're a logistician, and you're the one that you kind of manage workflow in a repair shop. So I worked in a lot of motor pools and some armories and some artillery repair shops, and you're just the guy or gal that's in charge of matching up, tracking supply parts that are coming in, matching it, running layets. I had a couple of warehouses here and there, and you just you manage workflow. You task mechanics to fix certain trucks and prioritize things, and all sorts of stuff. And at the time, I found it's funny because I was a bit like Luke Skywalker, always like, never his mind on where he was or what he was doing. So I was kind of wildly dissatisfied with that, especially as time went on. I didn't like doing that. But looking back, there was a lot of analytical elements to it. I mean, I was looking at coded reports. I was doing process improvements and uh, efficiency measures. I was improving the way that we did our requisition processes. So there was a lot of data analytics involved. I didn't really see it at the time. And then eventually I finished my degree and I became an officer, and then I went into artillery, which, kind of the appeal of that to me was it was, if you're going to be in combat, that's probably the most analytical piece of combat is doing fire support, or you know uh, so you're doing like weapon target solutions, and analyzing enemy positions and things like that, and seeing what's the best way to take them down with the munitions that you have. Um, So yeah, a lot of things like that. I worked at Quantico in Manpower for a while, so it was HR analytics sort of. So a lot of kind of military life is sort of how you can define it afterwards. And that's a big challenge for veterans coming out, but that's the thing. And so looking back on it, I was like, oh boy, I'm not really well set up for an analytics career, and I don't know what to call myself, or I don't know what domain to focus on. And when I look back, it was like, all right, well, I did supply chain analytics early on, and then I did kind of operational. Doesn't mean the same in the service as it does out, but operational like combat type analytics, and then I did human analytics, people analytics. So it is kind of a little of this, a little of that, but when you looked back on it, you could kind of define it in different ways, and from there, really the challenge is just, well, how do you define your value? How do you communicate that?
Yeah, I mean, I can relate as well. I started out as a chemist, and when I made the transition to data analytics, um,
Yeah.
there was this hurdle, which was how to communicate my experience in a way that makes it like relevant to what I want to do next. And it seems easy, maybe in hindsight, but before you actually get do it or have like experience with the role, you don't know what to pick out necessarily or how to call it or say it. So it could be kind of
Oh
like
yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like artillery in a way, like you're going weapon to target solutions. Like which of my stories or projects or experience can I apply to this particular requirement for this job I'm trying out for?
yeah, so you had that period. I guess like for you, I saw you interned at Google too. So like,
Hmm.
was the transition out of the military easy for you to make, or um, were there some keys for you to like make that transition well?
I don't think it's ever easy. It's just such a different beast that regardless of how long you're in, certainly the guys that are in 20 plus years like me, you're institutionalized. I mean, you're like not necessarily in a bad way. It just has its own language, its own way of thinking, its own code of conduct, and you don't find it anywhere else, and it doesn't apply anywhere else. Maybe a police force if it's a large one, but yeah, it's never easy. There are a lot of programs now that if veterans can use them, they're really helpful. And there's one kind of overarching program in the Department of War that's called SkillBridge, and SkillBridge is an allowance if you're not like operationally needed by your unit at the end of your contracted service time. You can take 3 to 6 months of the end of that time to do some sort of internship or course or apprenticeship or something like that. And they have all sorts of kind of ready-made programs. They have one called Troops to Truckers, where it's if you're a young enlisted service member and you want to become a commercial truck driver, cool. They got a whole program for that. There's Troops to Teachers. There's all of these that are kind of very they put you on rails. You're going to be this thing that you've already decided. And then there are some for people like me that didn't have like a lead pipe lock on exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted data analytics in some form, but I didn't really have like a dream company or a domain or anything like that, and I was kind of feeling my way. And so they have certain aspects of that program that appeal to people that are like, yeah, I really like to kind of test the waters in some of these jobs out here. And so when I came through, it was actually the first cohort that ever went into Google from the Defense Skill Bridge program. So that was a really uh, interesting thing. I didn't get to go to Mountain View. It was all remote. That was like tail end of COVID madness. So they were just then talking about return to work, which there were some sad faces about that in the company. But uh, but yeah, so I was from right here in Eastern North Carolina. I was remote working for Google for 3 months. I also caught nasty strain of COVID myself, so I was kind of half brain dead for some of that time. Um, but yeah, interesting time. But yeah, it was really cool seeing inside the tent at Google without really having much
It's too
pressure.
bad you you couldn't get in there yourself, and like go in person
Yeah,
for
I
your
wasn't.
internship. But
Looking back, I kind of wish I had just interviewed, just because it would have been a good experience to interview. I didn't really have much interest in actually working there because they were returning to work and I wasn't moving back to California. So,
there's this internship movie with uh, these like 240-year-old interns at Google. I think you mentioned it before when you talked about your story.
yeah.
It's pretty funny because you're like the real life version, right?
Yeah,
Something like
actually, a
that.
friend of mine, yeah, a friend of mine on LinkedIn named Robert Sievert. He he took like a picture of me and he put it on that movie poster with the beanie on. This was before like AI pictures. You could probably do a lot better job now, but 3 4 years ago he was just photoshopping. And but yeah, he put the beanie on me and put me on the movie poster. I've got to go find that. I think I still have the picture somewhere. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, I saw that movie poster a while back, I think. And it made an impression on me because I had just watched that movie. I guess it's not quite the same though because you interned remotely, which is awesome because I think you have like a remote career now. So it
Oh
really
yeah, absolutely.
set it up for you to continue
Yep.
with that.
Yeah, I actually had a job before that. I did a few months with an e-learning company, a startup company called Modal. And so, yeah, a lot of that was kind of an easy on-ramp to remote work life. Because basically every job I've had since the Marine Corps has been remote. So did Modal. Modal's a San Francisco company. Google's obviously Mountain View. Um, and then I worked for Analect Omnicom, which is a New York City based company. And in the year and a half, I only went up to the headquarters one time. And then, yeah, I've been at Alteryx just past my 3 year mark at Alteryx. That's an Irvine company. I've been out to Irvine like twice, maybe three times. So yeah, I mean,
Some
I'm living the
questions.
life. I got a nice big house here in super cheap Eastern North Carolina. I'm right by the beach. Yeah, life could be worse, man. Plus the internet.
Well, I mean, speaking of remote work, like, uh, how do you design your life so that you get enough interaction with people? I'm not sure if it's a problem,
Ugh.
but for you, but like something that you miss with the remote work is like you basically for 8 hours a day, I guess, are on your
Yeah.
computer alone. So, like, how do you combat that?
Yeah, it's tricky. Every once in a while, I see somebody write about that on LinkedIn, and yeah, you get cabin fever after a while. Um, I think it's really only been recently that I've found a good balance with that. Because my job, like I'm pretty much an individual contributor, and I generally will only have like 3 or 4 clients at a time that I'm working on tops. So I might only have 2 or 3 client meetings a week. And then like team meeting, 1 or 2 a week, meeting with my boss probably once a week. That's you right there. You're averaging like one a day. So I really had to like find some activities where I was around other humans. Uh, and part of it, like it was kind of funny. My wife and I were joking the other day with some friends. It's like you kind of have to get new friends because like I got out of the Marine Corps and the Marine Corps more or less issues you friends. I mean, you're around the same people all day every day, and so on the weekends you're like, hey, you want to come over for barbecue? And it's the same people coming over, and then eventually they go away, and then you retire, and so it's like, oh, all my friends are gone because now they've got orders somewhere else, and I'm out of the Marine Corps. Um, so you got a few neighbors in the neighborhood, but then my kids played travel baseball. Well, then all of our friends were either travel baseball or my oldest son played college baseball, and now he's done with that. He graduated, just got married, and so it's like, oh, all of our other friends, like all of our baseball parent friends, like we don't really keep in touch with them either. So it's like, oh, we need to go we need to go like meet people like organically in like places where people meet. Like, how do you even do that? We're not bar people really. Um, so yeah, it's kind of tricky. I do a lot of stuff now. My wife and I both do Toastmasters, which is a lot of fun. I turned to that when I got a customer facing job and I was like, kind of suck at public speaking again. And so turned to that, and that's been a great, not only a professional developer, but also a good social club, as nerdy as that sounds. Um, yeah, we do early morning CrossFit. We got a good crowd there. What else do we do? I do a men's prayer meeting on Wednesday morning. I got all sorts of activities. I'm in the American Legion. I don't always show up for the meetings, but yeah, just you got to keep things going on. And then, running a business. So it's like I got the 9 to 5 job, and then once that 9 to 5 is done, whip up some dinner and turn to business and see if I can make a little extra money and help some people along the way.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think groups definitely help, and it's kind of like I guess throughout your life, there are periods where friendships and community come easily,
Yeah.
and then there's periods where it doesn't come so easily. So it's really up to you to develop that skill set, to make those friendships happen and to develop
Yeah.
community. If you're always dependent on your circumstances for something like that, it could be bad. So it's maybe a
When
blessing in
and I know
disguise.
you and I were talking like before we hit record, we were talking about, this is your podcast. I'm gonna have you on my podcast. The probably the coolest thing about a podcast, since we're not like, Alex Hermosi and we're making stacks of money off of the thing, is you just get to meet cool people. And if you're disciplined about producing a podcast, which you are, I'm clearly not, but if you are fairly consistent about that, well, you get to consistently meet new people and you get to help them out. I mean, you get them a little exposure. I'm generally talking to job seekers or job grantors. I feel like that's kind of a public service. People jump on my podcast, they're going to learn something. And then you keep in touch with the people that were on your podcast. They're kind of friends. So yeah, that's super useful. And, I teach a course, love keeping in touch with my students, and helping them in their careers. So yeah, you got to find ways. I'm not a sit on my couch and watch movies guy. That that phase of
Definitely.
my
Some
life is behind me.
I don't know if you ever had that phase of life.
I did, yeah. It was when I was single, and then probably before my kids started playing sports, I had some leisure time. I think of it fondly.
Um, anyways, I I do kind of want to go back to your career story.
Mhm.
Last I remember, we were kind of talking about the transition from the military into analytics. You had your internship. Um, I'm wondering, like, what industries have you worked in? Like, what are some of the most complicated problems that you've focused on? And um, I'm would love to talk about consulting as well. And then,
Sure.
um,
Yeah. So obviously, I've already mentioned modal, so that's e-learning space. That was interesting. It was also a startup. I was not doing like startup things. Usually when people say, "Oh, I'm working in a startup," you think like you're sleeping on the floor, you're eating ramen, you're doing
yeah,
9 jobs. I was just an instructor. So there were other people living the startup life. That was not me.
you're an instructor like for analytics.
Yep. Yeah, taught Excel classes. I think I tried to teach some Tableau classes as well. I was not super good at it. But yeah, it was mostly Excel and Tableau we were working with. Um, but yeah, interesting stuff there. Then Google, they didn't really task us to do a lot. Mostly they said, hey, get a lot of coffee chats, like talk to all the people, see if this is something you're interested in for a career. We did a project of some sort, but nothing of great importance. But yeah, then working at Analect, I mean, that was fascinating, and we had kind of a niche problem set, which was attribution. which any like career marketeers hear that word and they go, like get the garlic and the crosses, and yeah, it's kind of the attribution specialists are kind of the the stepchildren of marketing. It's seen as kind of junk science sometimes, especially in the days since, when they had to aggregate everything and, post like, hey, we actually have to take data privacy seriously now, and not track everything down to the individual customer. Like that's a violation. So it's a whole lot more difficult now, and trying to attribute like person buys a car to person sees X number of ads is, sort of kind of half science, half magic. Um, but so that was a fascinating thing to work on and to get my first like real work as a working data analyst. From there, yeah, working at Alteryx, it's, I'm back in, I'm in the tech sector now. I'm in software, like, B2B mostly, some B2C. But yeah, mostly like big business, like enterprise software analytics packages, and spend 2 years on teaching the people how to use the software, and then almost a year and a half now on the consulting side. And it's sometimes when you say consulting, everybody thinks like big C consulting, big four firms, Price Waterhouse and Deloitte and all that. I have worked with those companies, but the consulting that we do is dealing with customer challenges with the software. Generally, I'm not a break fix guy, but generally what we're doing is they say, hey, can Alteryx do this? And the kind of problems that we get on the consulting team, usually the answer that I keep in my internal monologue is, geez, I don't know. Um, but but generally I'll tell them, well, I think so, or no, probably not. Um, and then we just get to work on it. And a lot of it is kind of, like most business intelligence software, we're built for the happy path, and it's built for, connect the workflow in order, sort and filter your data, output it in this creative form, go show it to a stakeholder. That's blocking and tackling. Where we get involved is generally the customer wants it to do like, okay, I know that you can do spreadsheets and, relational databases and sort and filter and whatnot, but I'd really like an animated dragon to fly through my presentation. Um, can Alteryx pull that off? And you're like, well, I'll figure it out, I guess. Um, so obviously that's a slight exaggeration, but usually it's something where it's like, can we do push down to Snowflake? And we can. I mean, that's pretty boilerplate. But yeah, they'll be like, well, I don't like Snowflake. I want to use Quix, or I want to use whatever, just some other super niche platform. Somebody had Zoho the other day. I never played with Zoho. So yeah, a customer could come in and be like, how do I connect Alteryx to Zoho to take tickets from the thing and prompt a workflow to run? I don't know if we can
So,
do that, but I can figure it out.
really, silly question here.
Sure.
What does Alteryx do? Like, they have a software.
The better question is, what doesn't Alteryx do, by God? Um, no, I'm kidding. So it is business intelligence software. So at a base level, it's going to do functionally, it's going to do a lot of the same things that you tend to do with Excel, with Tableau, with Power BI. It is an all-in-one business intelligence solution. That being said, the special sauce of Alteryx is it is predominantly workflow based. So the big problem, I would say still to this day, we've got a lot of other things that we do, but still to this day, the big problem that Alteryx solves is you're mashing your Excel spreadsheet, and you make change one, change two, change 100, and then you hit Control S, you close the spreadsheet, if you're more organized than me, and then you go eat dinner and you come back the next day. And then you realize to your shock and horror that of the 100 changes you made yesterday, change numbers 13, 73, and 98 were screwed up. and you need to undo them. How do you do that? You really can't. I mean, now if you know how to use Power Query, you can definitely go back in and pull up the steps and pull them out. But it's estimated that something like 2% of Excel users know how to use Power Query, and that number's not growing. Um, so if, in the real world, most Excel users are kind of pointy clicky people, and you just can't do that. Alteryx creates a workflow where steps 1 to 100 are right there on a canvas, and you're painting a Picasso, and you're saying input the data here and filter it here and sort it here, and you put 100 steps in a row, and then you're like, oh, step number 37 is all messed up. You just go to tool number 37 and you're like, change that to that and run it again. The other magical thing is it doesn't own your data. So the workflow is a pipeline. And so what happens is you put some sort of input which accesses a data source, be that a file, be that a cloud-based input, be that a database of some sort, Amazon S3 bucket, whatever it is. Our software doesn't break the data because it never owns the data. So that input data is a portal to the data source, and it pulls from that Excel spreadsheet, and it funnels the data through the workflow, and it does all of the things, and then it outputs to something else. And then if you realize, oh, I made a horrible mistake, your original file is still exactly the same as when you found it. So you didn't go through and do 50 Excel machinations and click Control S and go eat dinner, and then come back to realize that you broke the file. That's Alteryx. Now there's a
Awesome.
million
Sounds
other
like a
things that it does now. We've got all sorts of cloud-based stuff and server and things that I've learned over time. I mean, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And we've been around for about 20 years now, and
so you
that's
mentioned
the people know us for workflows.
you mentioned that you had spent 2 years using Alteryx on your own, and that was something that helped you get in.
Yeah,
And then also, it sounds like you started out with customer success as your role, something along those lines. Uh, is that right?
that's right. Yeah, and 2 years is definitely way overstating it. It was a year and a couple of months. Yeah.
So, what prompted you to start using Alteryx on your own organically? Was it because you wanted to work there, or you
It's
actually?
I mean, it's all funny how things work out. Does man make history or does history make the man? It was just kind of happenstance. I was just kind of Excel mashing with the best of them, and one of my bosses at Analect was like, "Hey, we got this other tool that we're giving it a try. Like some other departments in the company use it. Maybe it'll cut down on the grinding." And it's like, okay, so he sat me down and gave me like a quick 1 hour class. Half of the stuff he taught me was wrong, um, but it was kind of funny because I took a liking to it, and it just everything about the workflow and the visual, the graphic user interface aspect of it just worked for me for the way I think. And so I just took to it, and then I started learning on my own, and I started gaining certifications. And before you knew it, I was the duty expert within the company on that software, was turning around teaching classes to other people on how to use it. And I got dumped on this project that I was woefully unprepared for Disney. And it was, yeah, I was like, you talk about like just taking the kid and like dropping him into the deep end of the pool and like, well, sink or swim. That was me. Um, and yeah, I took a few beatings early on because the Disney does not play, and the team at Analect Omnicom that was solely devoted to working with Disney also did not play. And so when I was coming into meetings, like, yeah, I don't really know how to fix this, like that was the wrong answer. And so it was funny, like I got squared away very quickly, and I was forced to learn aspects of Alteryx that, I wouldn't have learned otherwise super quickly. But that painful experience was exactly what got me hired after, a little over a year of using the software to go teach it, which is still is kind of funny to me. But
Yeah, it's cool how that worked out.
yeah,
Uh,
tell
so
me.
yeah, it built your career.
Yeah.
So, uh, nowadays, you mentioned you have a business that you're
Mhm.
growing after your job. So tell me a bit about that. What are you working on?
Yeah. So what what am I not working on? Um, I spread myself a little thin. We talked about the podcast and the book and yeah. Sometimes I sit down and go, am I trying to do too many things? Nah, I'm good. Um, so yeah, it's so the company is called Bellamy Consulting LLC, which isn't terribly sexy. Um, I have my alter ego is Major Data. In fact, I probably should have worn my. I got a couple of branded T-shirts, but yeah, absolutely. So the main um started out writing resumes for data analysts or anybody really. I mean, I'm pretty good at writing resumes, and I figured out early on how to use large language models to make good resumes, not like obvious AI slop resumes, which is a pretty fine line to walk. And there aren't a lot of people out there that are walking it properly, in my opinion.
If I may
Generally,
ask,
when you see a
what
resume,
is
it's either what's that?
what's the key to that? What's the key to getting LLMs to write a quality resume?
It's honestly, it's the key. It's the same key to getting LLMs to do anything of quality. You have to be you have to be in the loop. And I don't know if this is necessarily this was a term that I picked up in the military working with autonomous weapons. Um, and I don't hear it that much outside of the defense industry. I think it is a somewhat well-known term, but it's man in the loop, man on the loop, which man or woman obviously, but in the loop means you are reviewing and clearing all decisions. Everything has human interaction. On the loop just means you're just watching the stuff happen, and you just click run, and you take whatever Chat GPT gives you on the way out, and you're like, there it is. That's my resume. That's a wrong answer. And I see every stinking day. I see resumes that are just wall to wall AI slop, and they're lies. And people are out there like submitting resumes and are implicitly lying about their experience. They're not writing the lie. The large language model is writing the lie, but you sign off on the lie when you submit that as your resume. And people rationalize it a whole lot of different ways, like, oh, everybody's doing it, or that's the way to compete. Everybody is not doing it, and that is absolutely not a way to compete. That is a way to spin your wheels forever and ever and get no traction, if we can crush that metaphor. Um, but yeah, it's being involved in every step and taking it piecemeal. You don't take your LinkedIn profile and grind it into the AI grinder and say, make me a resume. That's on the loop. You're just click and run. But if you take it and you say, hey, this experience bullet is not, it's not hitting the way I want it to hit. Give me some recommendations, or give me like 3 different iterations of this that make it a little more impactful, or give it a little more, juice. Give it some welly, as what's his name used to say on Dancing with the Stars. Um, that can work. If you're reviewing everything that comes out of the AI and saying that is a better way of describing my actual experience, that is AI slop and it's a lie. You've got to be, you have to be the human ombudsman. You can't just take what AI gives you as gospel, um, because otherwise you're going to look foolish, and you're never going to get an interview because any recruiter can spot them a mile away. Um, yeah, the writing's
Yeah,
not
so
that good
it
yet.
sounds like
You
you
can see it.
still really need to have an eye for
Oh
what
yeah,
it should look like.
yeah. But it's a tremendous help. And it can, especially for a guy that's writing like hundreds of resumes, trust me when I tell you, it has saved a whole lot of my brain cells to be able to work up a good prompt and be able to put in like a couple of bullets at a time, review them on the way out, like that's a better resume bullet. And just have there's a formulaic way of writing a resume. One of the corniest and most ridiculous things I hear from frustrated job seekers is, well, if I take my resume to 10 different resume experts, I'm going to get 10 different opinions or 10 different ways to write it. No, you won't. If you take your resume to 3 or 4 different good resume writers, what you're going to get back is going to be pretty similar because effective writing just looks a certain way. The way to structure sentences for impact is fairly consistent. Um, and you can't go too far wrong. I mean, systems are great. Systems will save your brain cells. If you tell that large language model, take these facts as I have presented them to you and structure them in a Google XYZ format, it's going to do a pretty good job of that. Yeah, if you say, write me a resume, you're going to have a long day.
Yeah, specifically telling it to use a Google XYZ format, I think
Yep.
is pretty key. So good
Amazon
directive.
Star, if you need to kind of beef it up, or if it's a larger bullet, like if you've got one accomplishment that you really want to hang your hat on and you want to talk a little more extensively about it, star format's good. Generally, a reserved star format for interview answers, because most people are trying to. The challenge for most people is to cut down the amount of information that's on their resume. Most people aren't out there trying to like fluff things up. It's what to cut out is the challenge. So yeah, usually XYZ is a more brief, gets right to the meat of the matter. It throws the impact up front. It reads better. Yeah.
So far, we've got resume writing, we've got podcast.
Yes.
What else? What else you got?
I actually nobody's taken me up on it yet, but I have had some requests in the past for LinkedIn profile upgrades. And I'm pretty good at that as well. And I know how to use AI for that in a constructive fashion and not in a slop fashion. So recently, I want to say like 2, 3 weeks ago, I did put on my website a LinkedIn profile upgrade. I don't even remember what I call it. Anyway, some catchy thing. Elite LinkedIn upgrade, maybe that's what it was. But yes, same price as the resume, and it's if you want me to review and rewrite and redesign your LinkedIn profile, can do. Um, so those are the things that I've offered traditionally. Now I've gotten more into teaching a general course on getting a data analytics job. And last year I did 2 iterations of a course that I call the Data Career Academy. I did them for free. I was just, hey, I'm testing this out. You want to come in and get on the ground floor? The more the merrier. And each cohort had I think I had 30 or so registrants, of which probably 15 or 20 were, consistent
How long?
members of the
How long is
cohort.
the cohort?
It's 9 classes, and I think both times I did it, I took 3 weeks to do it. So I think I would do Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, something like that. Anyway, I'd do 3 classes per week for 3 weeks. Um, but yeah, each class was an individual topic. So, one class we would do, what is your identity? What domain are you working in? What's your title that you're angling for? Um, and then, yeah, another class we would do one whole class on LinkedIn profiles. We'd do one whole class on fixing your resume, one whole class on networking. And so, I just felt like it was a pretty good, like hit it one day per. It has a nice symmetry to it. But yeah, that was pretty good. I had good results with that. It wasn't the I didn't screen for people that were like looking for jobs right away. So we had some people that got jobs, and we had some people that weren't really looking all that hard, or they already had a job and they were just trying to upskill themselves. So I didn't really do like any kind of controlled experiment like, you must be currently in the job market and applying. So I've done things like that in the past. When I was writing a book that still has to come out about writing resumes, I took like a cohort of like 15 people, I think, and I said, you got to be in the job market now to jump in on this. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to kick off another one next week, and so I got an info session tonight, which
It's
by the time
exciting.
this airs, obviously that will be past tense. But yeah, we're I'm doing another one of those because I really feel like that's a good thing. And the people that can't show up for the live class, I recorded the last time I did it. I'm going to record again this time, and I'm actually going to chop it up so that it's like individual classes. So instead of we do like 90 minutes to 2 hour sessions in the class, I'm going to chop it up into like 15-minute segments, so that's a little bit more digestible for people that maybe can't make the time or don't want to do a live synchronous class. They just want to drop in on the website and absorb it electronically.
Yeah, I'm sure that will get a lot more viewers that way.
Yep. But yeah, that's
But
Data Career Academy. I'm toying with. I really, I'm gonna say I like charging people money. I appreciate the difference when you charge people money, even a token amount, like $20, between that and when you give something away for free. Because what people get for free, they don't value, and we're all the same. And so, I've got courses for free all the time, and I never finish them. Why? Because if it's free, I don't, just it's how your brain works. You don't value it. And so I would be interested to see, I may charge people $20 for this upcoming course, just to see if that improves throughput and, do people stick it out better? Um, Not that, I mean, the classes are great and I'm funny, so, people like to stick around anyway. And I get lots of interaction. So we had pretty good staying power with the cohorts the first two times. But yeah, we'll
well,
see.
I think charging people is a good thing, like you say. Like it gets
Yeah.
people more invested and bought in on what you're teaching. So
Certainly
uh,
makes me more invested.
it makes you more invested. It gives you
Yeah.
a reason, like financial incentive to keep doing it and keep improving.
Yeah.
That's how like our world pretty much works. Like if you get paid for stuff, then you keep doing it,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you get better. Um, and this is obviously something that there's a lot of demand for, and you have expertise in. So I'm sure that it's valuable, and I bet people have been liking the cohorts. So I think that's
Yeah.
the main thing. Did they like it? Are
They
they?
stick around and keep talking to me, so
That means a
clearly
lot.
I didn't like say anything to insult them.
Um, Probably also what's valuable is the community aspect too. When you're
Yeah.
hunting for a job, it's lonely. So
Yep.
getting some sort of community of fellow job hunters is so impactful, especially if
Yeah,
they're like
absolutely.
in the same market and everything. Then you guys can be like become buddies and like help each other.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they back each other up. That's the greatest thing to see. Like one of them will post content and I see like, six or seven of the other students will hop on and comment. So, yeah, it's nice to see.
Yeah. So you got a cohort style career coaching for data
Yep.
analytics, which you should be charging for.
I plan to. I haven't jumped on the hype train well enough. So now I'm a bit nervous. Recording this on Tuesday. I'm meaning to start it next Monday, and I'm like, nah, haven't really set up I haven't even set up the funnel on my website, so I really need to do that probably before I do the info session tonight. So
Well,
clock's
it's
ticking.
exciting. It's like
Yeah,
if someone's willing to do something but not do it, if they're not willing to pay for it, then that's feedback too. It's like, all
yeah,
right, how do I change
yeah,
this so
absolutely.
that you would pay for it?
Yep, for sure.
Um, so yeah, even when you charge just a little bit, I feel like it's significant. It's like a validation.
Yeah,
That, um,
yeah, I agree.
so what else you got? Anything else?
Do you have the book? I put the sign up behind me, so I didn't know if you were ready to move on to that yet. But yeah, as far as offerings, that's what it is. I do love teaching that course. I love working on resumes, and I love working on LinkedIn profiles. So I'm sure we'll offer something else at
Well,
some point. But
it all kind of goes together. Like it's
mhm.
all about building your career, just different ways that you can help people
Yeah,
with that.
and honestly, so like the book, I know you were asking about. Do you want to ask about the table of contents? I'm burying the lead here
Sure.
because
So if
you
we
made the
go
mistake
over
of
the
telling me what you were
table
going to ask.
yeah, I told you before the podcast.
Yeah,
If we go through the table of contents,
yeah.
then and like talk about like why
I'm like looking at it.
each part is there and like why you put it in that order, I feel like
Yeah,
it would be interesting to hear your reasoning because you're the expert here. Like you know what it takes to build a great career in data analytics. So
yeah,
like I'm sure there was a lot of like strategic thinking into how to put this together.
yeah. Absolutely. So it's funny because when we just talked about the academy, I when I went to write this book, I went back. You set your mind to write a book. I already had a book mostly written about resumes. It still is not quite finished. When I decided to put the fast track on this one and get this one out the door first, I went back and I said, okay, I built this course, and the course had every day was a different thing, and they kind of build on each other. So it's like the things that I noticed when I was working with people on resumes and the things that I couldn't work on with them because it was just, they paid me X dollars to fix their resume. And I'm talking to them because I interview all of my clients. I'm talking to them and I'm just like, this person's got no confidence. Like they've got there's no unity of effort here. Like they're not, I say, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And they're like, it might be this or it might be that or it might I'm like, okay, well, what domain or industry do you want to work in? I'll do anything. I just love working with data. And that right there, you're just like, oh boy, we got like it's going to be a tall order even writing your resume because you don't know what you want to do. And what I realized was there's so much else that feeds into it is all self-reinforcing. It is all symbiotic. Like you can't write a resume without knowing who you are and what you want to do. You can't you can't network effectively without knowing what kind of domain you want to work in because that determines the people that you need to connect with. You can't build a project portfolio effectively if you don't know what domain you want to work in. Why? Because you're sitting there doing the like video game sales and analyzing like how many times they Taylor Swift's song lyrics and stuff like that. That doesn't sell. Nobody's hiring for that. That's that's fun with numbers. That's you're having a good time making a portfolio, and your portfolio might be pretty, but it's not effective, and it doesn't prove that you can do anything of substance. However, if you take the time early on to go examine who you are and how your mind works and what kind of data you like to work with, and you figure out what domain you want to work in and what level of job you're aiming for, everything unlocks for you. Suddenly you know who you want to connect with as far as like what domain they need to work in and what they need to be talking about, what companies they need to work for. You know what level they need to be. Because if you're going to be, hey, I'm aiming for like staff analyst, or junior analyst or something. Okay, well, it does you no good to connect with the CEO probably, or try to, because that person's not really going to leverage, maybe the CEO, but, like high level, like director level manager, that person may or may not even be involved in hiring at the ground floor. So you need to connect with people that are kind of at or slightly above your level. It
And it
unlocks
would
everything
inform you too.
else.
You'd be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I'm
and
going to
so
go
things need to
with this
happen in
team,
order.
not that team.
Yep,
I'm going to go with
exactly.
the marketing analytics team and talk to their manager, not
You got
the
it.
uh, data engineering team or something. I don't
Yeah,
know."
but it's just like the dating scene. Like, when you're taking somebody out on a date and they say, "Where do you want to eat?" and you're like, "Oh, I don't know." That's not that's not impressive. Nobody likes that. That's the worst thing ever is sitting there with your date like, "Do you want this? No. Do you want this? No. Do you want?" Somebody just make a decision. And so it's the same way as, when you're a job applicant. If you're the person that does Windows and you're like, oh, I'll take anything, I just need a job. Cool. Next. You're not it because you don't know who you are. However, if you're the person that comes in and says, I've been dreaming of this job my entire life, let me tell you about it. Not only do I have 6 connections that can tell you what kind of analyst I am, that you know, because I've networked effectively. Not only do I have a resume that says I'm this thing, let's say it's a marketing analyst. I'm a senior marketing analyst. Here's my resume that says senior marketing analyst right across the top. What job am I applying for? Senior marketing analyst. Here's my experience is a little lean, especially in industry. Got it. Here's my project portfolio. What are all my projects in? Marketing. Now suddenly you're a person coming in with confidence and you're saying, I am this, this, and this, and I am a good fit for this job, and I know why. That's a person you want to hire. And so that's the thing that drives the order of not only the classes that I teach, but the book as well, is if you don't do these things in this order, and if you skip steps, and if you're going to fall behind. And you're going to be handicapping yourself. And people just recoil from that. I mean, they just do not want to, the FOMO is so strong that they do not want to commit to any one thing. Because I see them thinking, they're just like, the minute I do this, the minute I say I'm a supply chain analyst, there's going to be some manufacturing data analyst job I'm not going to see or I'm going to miss out on because I've pigeonholed myself. I mean, that kind of thinking will keep you like mile wide and inch deep forever.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah.
You can really set yourself apart if you have a focused vision as to what industry you want to work in and
Yep.
what type of data you want to work with. Like, I think that it's true, it resonates with me. If you have a list of portfolio projects that are all within the same type of theme, that would really show experience. But if you have like a scattering of different types of projects, then it really wouldn't look like much experience. Kind of just looks like, um, it would look like, yeah, like you said, like some like play projects.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like congratulations, you can follow directions and there's a place for that. But that place is shrinking. People want analysts that can think independently, that can sanity check stuff, that can look at a bank of numbers and say, that right there, that cell, that doesn't look right. And I know that because of my industry experience or my domain knowledge. They don't want someone who's just going to, and any idiot can sit there and say, the average of the numbers in this column is cool. You've aggregated. We have bots, we have AI agents that can do that for us now. Like, show your value by thinking independently. And, in a meta way, it's not just show me that you can think independently on the job. It's show me that you can think independently about your job search. So if you're willing to commit and willing to make decisions, people get bent around the axle saying like, I just love spreadsheets. I don't care. No, you don't. No, you freaking don't. And sometimes it's easier to define what you don't want than it is to define what you do want. Because there's plenty of people entry level that are just like, I don't really know what domain would interest me. Number one, you need to go network and talk to people that are in the domain. Because they'll tell you if their job sucks, they will tell you in no uncertain terms. And they'll tell you why. And they'll tell you which companies to avoid too, which is super useful knowledge. But you can go by process of elimination. It's like a game of guess who. You just sit there and you talk to a manufacturing analyst. I have done this. Talk to a manufacturing analyst and they tell you what they do. And I'm like, I damn near fell asleep like by the end of the conversation. It was that boring. I'm glad he loves it, but I know I would hate it because that type of data just does not interest me. So yeah, that's out there for everybody. And like talking to people is free. You can use all of the free features on LinkedIn or whatever networking thing you choose and just go meet people and talk to them and ask them questions. And people are generally pretty happy to talk about themselves.
Yeah, I think you have a direction, and as you go through your career, you hopefully refine that direction so
Yeah,
that you can uh, have a crystal clear vision over time. But
yeah,
it's definitely hard to know right out of the gate like what it is that you want to do.
it
Maybe
is.
sometimes you try something and you realize that's what I don't want to do,
Mhm.
and that helps you realize, helps clarify your vision a bit. But it's definitely a difficult problem, and there's some value to trying a bunch of different things. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but along those lines, sometimes I get a name for myself by crapping on project portfolios. And there's a reason I crap on project portfolios, and that's because that's a lottery ticket. Like chances are nobody's ever going to look at it. So project portfolios are good for a couple of things. Number one, just honing your own skills. Not only your analytical skills, but also your presentation skills. If you write up a good README file or you make a, you know, an actually impressive visualization, not a paint by numbers thing, but something that you come up with that conveys an actual insight, awesome. If you do a video presentation, also even more awesome. So it gets you practice in doing end-to-end projects, things with a that are actually finished, and things where you actually find insights and communicate said insights. That is all value added. But the other thing is, like you just talked about, you can figure out what you like and what you don't like. If you like sitting there dealing with, data about how many people responded to an ad campaign, awesome. Go into marketing. If you like, data about equipment failure times and, and like maintenance cycles and stuff like that, awesome. Do manufacturing. There's plenty of jobs in all of these. If you want to like beat your head against the wall and get into healthcare informatics and that, you want to make a difference in the world and you think that's the way to do it, I disagree, but whatever. Um, awesome. Go into healthcare, but do all your work in that. And then same thing with the project portfolio. It's like go meet people that do the job and do work in the job. If you hate one or the other, chances are you're going to hate working in that job.
the way I go about it is like I think what you say makes a lot of sense. So you don't present yourself as scattered to
Yeah.
your employer or to the person that you want to get hired by or work at. And you kind of need, like, you might not know what you want to do, but you decide, all right, I think I might like this, so I'm going to try that next. And then you commit to that for like a year or two or
Yeah.
something. So you get like a consistent record of projects about that thing, then maybe get your first job in that thing, and then you can see. And then from there, you'll be at a position to make an informed decision about what you might like more next.
Sure.
That would be my strategy, and that's personally what I'm doing.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Because I don't feel that I could say what it is that I like without
Mm-hmm.
trying it first. Some people seem to do that. Some people, like, they are born, like, I'm going to be a doctor, and they never change their mind,
Yeah.
and they become a doctor. But I was never that
Oh, I
way.
straight up lucked my way into marketing analytics. I didn't choose that. It was just there was an opportunity there and it sounded interesting and I dropped into it and I was like, it was only kind of after the fact that I realized, why do I like this so much? Why do I stay up late working on these projects when I could just, clock out and be done? And, um, why does this stuff stick with me? Why do I wake up in the morning still thinking about the project that I was working on yesterday and like, man, I can't wait to get back to work on that and mash more spreadsheets. Um, yeah, and then once I figured it out, it was like, oh, this is something I can maybe teach to other people to get them to do it on the front end so they don't have to hope for like, pure dumb luck like I had.
Yeah, so the cool thing about marketing analytics is that you also market yourself a lot. So, I mean, as when you work as a marketing analyst, you don't quite become a marketer, but you get
Hmm.
familiarity with like what's success and what's bad in
Yeah,
marketing, maybe.
yeah, absolutely.
So it's helpful,
Yep.
but it's actually like an area that you're really interested in, obviously, because you have a
Yeah,
LinkedIn, you have your podcast and everything. So, and as every time you launch your offers, you market it.
yeah, for
So
sure.
it's
Um,
cool to see how that skill set, I guess, is like very integral to what you do.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and that's another good litmus test. It's like, are you interested in the business problem over and above just how do I crack this like analytics nut? Um, if it's just if you can sit in like meetings for your industry that aren't just about analytics and you're still interested, you're probably in the right field. Um, I could sit in meetings for other aspects of Omnicom and be perfectly interested in what they were saying, even if they weren't talking about like analytics specific stuff, because the business problem to me was interesting.
Yeah, you really have to get into the business, understand it.
Hmm.
And I think that's actually my favorite part about analytics is that it gives you a reason to be involved in the business, which
Yeah.
is not true necessarily for every role. So, for example, I started my career out as a biochemist, and when I was a biochemist, the business was an afterthought. It was more like manufacturing the drugs that they needed, and did I do it correctly? So, like me
Okay.
understanding the business or even understanding why they put together the the way in which they manufactured the drug was not important. So
Hmm.
I felt kind of like out of the loop. I didn't like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're right too. Like HR, IT, those people in those departments, they don't feel the need to understand the business use case. Like, and HR with a marketing firm is more or less interchangeable with an HR at a manufacturing or a defense or any other industry. It's the same game for them. But you're right, analysts, you have to have domain knowledge or you're going to be behind.
So, and I guess like if you're drawn to entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
then having that being in a role where you need domain knowledge is good because you get that exposure to how other people are running their businesses at a
Oh
high
yeah.
level while also getting a technical skill set that is somewhat valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
I say somewhat valuable because when you have a small business, you don't really need to be like
Yeah, it is a
doing full
very different
analytics.
ball game. Yeah. Yeah, you're not doing high level like attribution, like Markov chains and all that sort of nerdery. Like, let's prepare these massive data sets for the data science team according to their specifications. That was one of my responsibilities. Yeah, not so much. You probably are the data everything team if you're at a startup or
Yeah,
your own business.
I mean, you're going to be like technically capable, which is good, really helpful
Yep.
for a person running a business nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of my perspective on it. I I kind of used it as like I wanted to inch towards entrepreneurship, and I felt like getting into analytics was a good way to do that.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Absolutely is.
Um, but yeah, so we never actually got into the table of contents of your book and like the the reasoning. Or I mean, actually, what you
Did you want
said
me
was
to
really
go into it
important.
chapter by chapter?
I guess you don't have to. I feel like what you gave me was like the core message was
Yeah, I mean
which
that was the
you have to get
reasoning
your
behind it.
direction.
Yeah, so I mean, chapter one is just talking about me and like my journey, and then it goes through. So 2 through 10, those were the 9 classes that I teach in the course. So analyst identity, how to pitch, it builds on itself. So analyst identity is kind of just a couple of lines. It's like what's your industry, what's your level, and what's your particular kind of analytics. So I am a senior marketing analyst. Um, and data analyst, if you have to be specific about something. But yeah, senior marketing analyst, there, analyst identity. Um, and then your pitch, 4 sentences to define your professional brand, which also translates into your summary and also the sections on your LinkedIn. Um, so like, analyst identity translates to your headline. Then, your elevator pitch is, like kind of the tell me about yourself answer. So it translates into the interview. So everything kind of interlocks. You have this one thing. What do you do? Senior marketing analyst at Analyct. Awesome. Or senior analytics consultant at Alteryx. Okay, that's your identity. That's your one line. That's your LinkedIn headline. That's your, just you're at your buddy's barbecue and he asks you what you do for work. That's it. Um, but then you flesh that out to your elevator pitch, and that is, what's a key accomplishment? What is your core skill set? What are your kind of three superpowers, if you will? What kind of job are you looking for? That's where you start fleshing that out. Um, and then we get into LinkedIn. So it's like, okay, so we've built out some of these portions of your identity. Now it's time to get into, okay, well, how do we translate that identity into conveying value to the public? Well, next three classes, LinkedIn, networking, and resume. So I put LinkedIn and networking back to back because they intermesh quite heavily. And then resume at the back end. Why? Because the reason why I put those two before the resume, even though I'm a resume writer guy, is the networking part is the most important of all. You can do without it, but if you nail the network, nothing else really matters. You can be, I don't advertise. I assume everybody's competent, but if you got a good network, you can be at best mildly competent and still get hired. If you've got a good network, I've got all my jobs through my network. My resume is always an afterthought. So I've submitted it at times, but all the jobs I've got, usually the resume is just, I win the interview. Like I get the interview through my network. I go do the interview. At times I'm the only person interviewing. And once the interview is a win, then they say, hey, we need a copy of your resume on file for HR. Done. So if your network is good and you can interview adequately, everything else is kind of, it's window dressing. And now I don't advocate blowing things off. That's, then you're just playing Russian roulette. So you should make your resume effective. Why? Because an effective resume can be a way to get a job. But yeah, LinkedIn networking resume, that's kind of bulk of the second week, and then portfolio. So even though I'm the guy that craps on portfolios, still advocate actually doing one for the reasons that I outlined earlier. And then the job hunt itself is kind of strategic thing, actually getting in and winning the interview. I had a whole YouTube video where I talked about basically everything up to the interview. You just have to be adequate. And people get bent around the axle about, I have to be the unicorn. I have to be one of 1,000 or however many people apply for the job. You don't. You have to be adequate at each step of the way. The only place where you actually have to come in first is the interview. And so everything else is just, look like a competent human, because they're not pulling one of one. They're pulling 100 of 1,000 or 200 or however many. And then the last part kind of wraps it all up. I go through with my students and do like a strategic plan where they take all the elements and pull them together. I do like having them do homework, and they do LinkedIn posts. They do, they work on aspects of their resume, and then they bring them into class and we talk about them.
So all of this, you're going to walk people through personally and individualize
Yes.
in your cohort for free, I guess, starting
Well,
tonight.
yeah. So tonight is the information session. Monday, the cohort starts. Um, so with a group setting, I can't do 100% individualized. Now I am getting ready to offer some kind of, I don't know what exactly it'll look like or what the price point will be, but some kind of extended mentorship. Like 2-3 months that will be one-on-one. But obviously uh, that's going to be significantly more costly than a group class. So, but yeah, group class, I do plenty of one-on-one time with them. Usually I'll schedule the class for like 8 to 9:30. Rarely am I off the call before 10. I am generally on the call at 7:30. So every class I do is just the pure class time is like a 2.5 hour generally time commitment. Um, so yeah, it's a significant thing. But yeah, I will offer one-on-one coaching here soon. I do
Yeah, that's
already.
awesome.
It's informal.
If you're looking for a career in data analytics, Albert's your guy.
Yeah. I mean, coaches get a bad rap now, but the thing is, like, I pay for coaching, and I am a coach. So, there comes a point in your life where you realize you need mentorship, and mentorship generally does not come for free. That's
Coaching for the right thing is extremely valuable.
Yes, sir.
If you know what you want help with, if you know what you want to achieve, then I
Yep.
think coaching is one of the best investments you can make. But
Yep.
if you
I
don't know
jumped
what you
I
want
jumped
to
on a
do,
coach's class to get my book published, and that is the reason that this book is published and is physical now and I can hold it, and I sold copies of it, and why my resume book is still unpublished. But now I have all the knowledge, so that the resume book here like next 6 months or so I'll get it out the door.
it's awesome. Second book coming soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Probably a third too. Who knows?
I mean, why stop at three? You probably go for
Exactly. Yeah, why not? Time is unlimited, right?
yeah. Well, you could write it. I mean, you could keep writing books, and you'll probably do go faster and faster with each one too.
I would imagine. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. With each cohort too, you probably learn a lot about what aspects maybe that you should teach on or
Oh
write a
yeah.
book about.
Yeah, there's a ton of matter of fact, like I'm terrible about that, like after action stuff, but there's a ton of refinement that goes into it every time. So the first one was kind of rough, and even just like using the tech and presenting on camera and all that sort of stuff, like it's it's a challenge, and you get better at it as you go on.
Yeah. Well, Albert, it's been awesome to chat with you.
Yeah,
If
likewise, man.
I really appreciate you taking the time, and it's been really cool to hear about your story, what you're working on, and get a bit of your perspective here. Um, and I've been following you on LinkedIn for quite some time, so it's great to
Nice.
finally chat with you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, this was great. I can't wait to turn it around and interview you, man. We'll get it together soon.
yeah, I'm really excited for that. It'll be awesome to hop on your podcast.
Yep.
So, if people want to follow you or join your cohort, uh, or anything that like what's the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah. So my main platform of choice is LinkedIn. I'm also on YouTube. So LinkedIn, just search for Albert Bellamy. YouTube, it is Major Data. And um, so my website is themajordata.com. And I will have, before the information session tonight, I will have a sign up sheet for the course. And that will be starting, we'll be kicking that off Monday, February 2nd, as I'm looking at my calendar.
Perfect. All right. Well, Albert, thank you so much, man, and
Yeah, man.
I'm excited to chat with you again soon.
Yeah. Good to talk to you, Warren.